Okay, so our next presenter is actually three presenters. They are going to come up and talk about the nutritional aspects of wildlife management. And initially it was going to be Brett Anderson, but it's Brett Anderson, Robert Cook, and Lynn Collard, and they're from Record Rack Feed. And they're going to come up and give us a presentation talking about nutrition and the nutritional elements of the feed that we're providing our animals. So if you guys want to go ahead and come on up.
Good afternoon. So I'm Brett Anderson, and I enlisted some help. I decided I didn't want to be alone up here. So I am the owner of Freer Feed and Ranch Supply. We are the feed dealer that provides all the various feeds to wildlife partners, all their ranches and their menagerie of animals that they have. Freer Feed and Ranch Supply is located in Freer, Texas. It's in the center of South Texas. And I'm joined today, by the way, by Lynn Collard, our general manager, and also Robert Cook from Cargill, and he'll give a presentation about animal nutrition with Cargill Feeds. So Freer Feed, Cargill, and Wildlife Partners are really a team, and we work together to deliver the right feed to the right place and at the right time. So you might ask, well, why Cargill? Why Freer Feed? Well, the answer is that Cargill is the largest feed provider in the world, animal feed provider in the world. They have incredible resources, an incredible research facility, great resources at the local level as well. They're available to meet with all of you as a customer and provide consulting about your specific situation with your specific animals. So they really provide a tremendous service as well as a fantastic product. Freer Feed we are the largest record rack dealer in the state of Texas and the third largest in the United States. Record rack, of course, is the line of wildlife feeds that Cargill manufactures. So I mentioned that because of our size, we are able to meet the needs of large customers like Wildlife Partners, but of course we have customers of all sizes. In addition to being a feed dealer, I am also an animal breeder. I have a South Texas ranch. I have a wildlife breeding operation in pens, and I have an exotic breeding operation out in the pasture. My general manager, Lynn, has been a ranch manager for a number of ranches across Texas over the past several decades. He has had pen and pasture breeding operations as well. So we understand your needs because we are a customer just like you, and we respect what you need, what you do, the investment that you have, your ranch, your equipment, and what you are trying to do to advance your goals on your ranch. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robert, and he's going to go through a presentation about animal nutrition with Cargill Feed. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Pleased to be here to clear something up. I am not Bobby Deeds. Bobby Deeds is one of our two wildlife specialists here on staff in Texas. I am a consultant in Central Texas. I deal with all species. I deal with cattle, horses, poultry. I do a fair amount of whitetail and some exotics as well. So, we're going to talk about some nutritional concerns, some best management practices, but if I can get one main point communicated today, I'd like to encourage you that if you have a nutrition program that you're considering maybe some fine-tuning, some modifications, or you're considering developing a program, give us a call. That's what I think that we at Freer Feed and we at Cargill do best. Every situation out there is a little bit different. And when you talk about exotics, that's kind of an umbrella term for a lot of different species, and they all have a little bit of a different nutritional requirement. So I think we do you the best service when we can communicate with you directly, maybe over the phone, preferably with a ranch visit, to really kind of see and evaluate your particular situation. I think that puts us in the position and gives us the opportunity to make the best recommendation and help you put your best foot forward with your feeding program. So that slide looks kind of busy, but what it does is illustrate how the different types and species of animals graze out in the natural habitat. So on the left you have the browsers. You have whitetail, mule deer. On the right, you have cattle. They're almost exclusively grazers. And then most of our exotics kind of hit somewhere at varying degrees, kind of right in the middle, utilizing some browse and some grass. So that slide I think the takeaway is to kind of communicate some of the research that we do that's unique and exclusive to Cargill that we use to build feeds for you guys. So that's work that we did at our lab in Elk River, Minnesota in 2009, dealing with in vitro digestibility studies of cattle versus deer. And as you can see, with the exception of soybean hulls, typically cattle digested these feedstuffs to a greater degree than the species that we're talking about here today. I don't know if that's totally, but at least in part, I think you can attribute that to, by and large, that cattle will have a larger rumen. They have the ability to take in, load up on feedstuffs and retain it for a longer period of time than some of these exotics, and they can digest it more fully. So the takeaway from this is the research benefit to you guys when we formulate feed for you is if we take digestibility numbers for cattle and how those ingredients will react and try to apply them to deer and exotics, we're going to fall a little bit short. So that's the value, I think, of knowing and really doing the research and having our facts on how these ingredients react when the animals that we're talking about here today consume them, rather than applying some book value to them. So what are some of the primary challenges that we discuss when we interact with customers like you guys? Most often we go out there and we're looking at mixed herds with several different species in the same habitat, the same pasture. All of these species have a little or maybe a lot different nutrient requirements. Usually, it's most practical to feed one feed. It would be ideal if you could segregate those animals and feed them individually according to their nutrient requirements, but that's usually not practical, not possible. So the reality is we deal with different species in the same habitat with one feed. Antlers versus horns. The cervid species that drop horn or drop antlers and then regrow them every year, that's a tremendous nutrient requirement when that's going on, versus the species that just develop horns. Overutilization of the feed, that's a big one here with the species that most of we're dealing with here today. Especially the big guys, we've seen them go load up on feed, walk a little ways away from the feeder, lay down, sleep a little while, get up a few hours later and do the whole thing again. So given the chance, compared to many other species, exotics can really sock away the feed. And they'll do that whether that is a low nutrient density feed or even high nutrient density feed. So that's one thing that we have to keep in mind. We have to balance that diet, knowing how they're going to consume, and put our vitamins and minerals kind of in relation to the calorie intake. Exceeding carrying capacity. Often we make a ranch consultation out there, and we go out there, and it's an easy situation to get into. You have too many animals out there for the habitat, and it's just really hammered. It's bare ground. The browse line is up here. They've eaten everything off the trees and the bushes and the brush that they can reach. And everything that they're getting nutrient-wise at that point in time is coming out of the feeder. So it kind of aggravates that situation of over-consuming from the feeder. It adds to our cost. And if you can keep Mother Nature involved and kind of take care of your habitat, that gives the animals the opportunity to pick and choose and browse and graze and so forth. And it's better for your feed bill at the same time. And fact of the matter is, we're often dealing with, as much research as we've done, we're often dealing with limited data on some of these species. Compared to where the feed business is more involved just because of time and across the world, more tons being involved, compared to horses, compared to especially cattle and so forth, there's just some of these species, especially when you talk about how varied all the species are out there, there are just some of these species that we just don't know as much yet as what we'd like to. So limiting nutrients. You know, it kind of sounds like, well, water is a limiting nutrient, but I can't say it enough. A good supply of fresh, clean, cool water, easily accessible, puts all the other things in play. It'll help your consumption, it'll help your health, it'll help your reproduction, it'll help everything else. And often more often than what I like to say is I'll go out and do a ranch consultation regardless of the species, and I find some problems that can be improved by making the water supply more accessible. So don't forget that. It seems like almost a given, almost a common sense, but pay close attention to that. Protein is often the number one limiting nutrient. Protein in the rumen, good rumen protein supplementation will encourage a good population of rumen microflora and make those animals much, much better at digesting the other feedstuffs that they're taking in, especially the forage type feedstuffs. Fats and carbohydrates is a way of saying energy. That's where energy comes from. Vitamins and minerals, especially minerals, phosphorus and those type of things, real closely related to antler development, real closely related to fertility. And I'm a big, big believer in mineral supplementation, helping boost the immune system, keeping these animals healthier, and just doing better all the way around. So some nutrition take-homes. You know, lawyers, feed salesmen, so forth, always say depends on the situation. That's why I preface much of this talk by saying, call us, let's have a discussion. What are you dealing with out there as far as what species, what habitat, and so forth? Depends on the situation. So the more we can understand about that, the better I think we can put our best foot forward in advising and understanding your situation from some of these regards, the better decisions you can make for your nutrition program. Fat, most of our products from 2 to 4%. Carbohydrates, vitamins and minerals, in particular vitamins, vitamin A, D, and E, being in relation to the calorie content, so we have the product balanced. Nutrition is cumulative. Well, what does that mean? It means that if you're a little deficient in nutrition, it may not be but an incremental amount, but every day, if they are deficient in what they need versus their nutrient requirements versus what they're getting, they're going to fall a little bit further behind. Day 1, a certain amount. Day 2 is 2x. Day 3 is 3x. And pretty soon you're going to start to see declining body condition, declining performance, or whatever, however you're measuring that. So it really matters a lot in drilling into what are the nutrient requirements and how do we provide that. So cost-effective rations he's got up here, the need to feed the minimum requirements of the most nutritionally stressed animal in the herd. The way I find an easier way of communicating that is what are the highest nutrient requirements, and that's what we have to feed for. Knowing we're going to feed maybe some other species, some other classes, maybe overfeed them a little bit, but if we're not designing our feeding program to the highest nutrient requirements class or the species of animal, we're going to leave them behind pretty quick. Utilize standing forage if you can. Better for the animals, it's better for your pocketbook, better for your feed bill. We have some limiting technology. As we said, a problem is, especially some of these big guys, can really hammer the feeder pretty hard. More than what above and beyond their requirements. They like to eat feed, kind of like me. We have some limiting technology. If you've got the size, the scale to order in 9 and 12 ton runs at a time, we have the limiting technology to help you on that side of it and self-limit these animals out of the feeder on how much they can eat. So he says again, operate within your carrying capacity. Manage the number of animals, try to stay under your carrying capacity. In other words, try to keep Mother Nature on your side. Once you've hammered that place and it's bare ground, you're at the mercy of the feed company at that point. And every bite of feed that they're going to get, every bite of their nutrition is going to come out of the feeder. If you can manage that habitat and keep Mother Nature working for you and keep that good and healthy, those animals have the ability to pick and choose and so forth and not hit the feeder quite as hard. A word about commodity type supplements. I think he lists cottonseed, corn gluten feed, soybean hulls, et cetera, et cetera. They can be a great addition, but remember they're a feed ingredient and you need to manage those type of things because there are some big deficiencies that can come when they're not formulated accurately. In other words, all of these products up here have some nutritional deficiencies, and if you get carried away and say, well, I can feed their whole diet is corn, gluten feed, and those type of things, you're going to have some nutritional deficiencies when you get into vitamins and minerals and possibly some mineral tie-ups that can bite you in the long run. So, successful management. How do you, the old saying, you can't manage what you don't measure. You know what are we shooting for? What type of records do you keep? Do you know how many animals you're actually dealing with? Do the survey. What are your weights, your body condition? What's your trophy quality? What's your repro efficiency doing year on year? Are you static? Are you improving from year to year? Especially if you're starting to fall off and see some declines, there's something going on there you need to address. Often, but not always, but often it's nutrition. Have someone help you do a habitat analysis and look at that from a total feed utilization. What's coming out of the feeder? What is Mother Nature helping you provide? We recommend on pasture, one feeder for 25 head, about one for 10 head in the pen. Supplemental forage, what base, what resource do you have there? Build your program around that. And worming or medication. Antibiotics is a tougher thing to do with the VFD deal these days. But worming, animals are valuable, feeding is expensive. Worm the animals, keep them clean, so they're going to utilize the feed that you are feeding, and they'll be healthy and thrifty doing that. So what are you looking for as you look for success? Herd vigor. It's a little subjective, but you go out there, do they look good? Are they feeling good? Acting like they're feeling good? What's their behavior? Their body condition, do we have that where we want to? The last presentation, they talk about body condition being very closely related to reproduction. Very, very important, regardless of what species you're talking about. Trophy quality. That's what we're selling most of the time. So what's our trophy quality? Are we able to improve that with nutrition as we go forward? Again, very, very important. Try not to get into a situation where you're hammering your habitat and that's going away. Cost efficiency of the feed. Get a feed that's formulated with respect to digestibility, and get a feed that's formulated with the knowledge that some of those guys can hammer in regards to intake and consume a lot of feed. Work with the nutritionist if you can. Call us. Call Freer Feed. Connect with the feed company through your dealer. We're trained in this stuff. It's what we get paid for. It's what we make our living with. And if we can assist you, we're very happy to do that. Sometimes over the phone, often, if you're comfortable with it, we'll do a ranch visit. We'll lay eyeballs on the situation. We'll discuss what your goals are and try to design a program that's going to set you up for success. And remember that regardless of your nutrition, it's still subject to genetic limitations, and vice versa for that matter. That's kind of the quick and dirty. Anybody have any questions of us? I've either answered them all, but more likely I've just bored you half to death. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, we are a customer of Freer. We use their feed, and we found them to be a great resource. I would highly encourage you to have them out to your ranch to come give you kind of an assessment of what's going on. But the things that I really take away from what they're talking about is, and for me, the key word is supplemental feed. Proper range management is really the key to nutrition in the exotic species that we raise. Granted, some of the species we raise are in pens, and so we become their primary source of diet. But when you're dealing with a ranch environment, the proper carrying capacity plays a huge role in the overall health of your animals. One thing I will say is one species we raise is bongo. We have quite a few bongo, and we were having some problems with offspring that were not surviving. And we did some work in trying to figure out what was going on. And one of the things we discovered is that there was a copper deficiency that was going on within the offspring. And so this lends itself to the fact that, we're all managing this broad array of species, and they're all different. They eat differently, they have different needs, And one thing may need something, whereas another thing needs something else, but yet we're trying to package it into one box, which makes it really difficult. And so what we have found is by having some supplemental minerals and things like that, we can make up for some of the things that maybe we don't want to put into the feed, because there's other animals that don't do well if you have a lot of copper in the feed. So I would just really encourage you for your individual needs, get with these guys, have them come out and let them give you an assessment, and I think you'll find they're a great resource for your ranch. So thanks again.